share different cultures and opinions. If you're new here, welcome once again. And if you found this interesting, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And today's topic is a little bit different. It's school dress code, uniform versus freestyle. So we're just going to be discussing that to see where you and I lie. And I am so sorry about our annoying co-host that doesn't know how to stop talking. Yes, we hear you, child. His name is Kagome, and he won't stop meowing. Meow, 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 meow. Like, oh my god, the whole time. It's so fucking... I mean, can you imagine all night long that's all I hear?
I mean, that's good. At least it's not comparison. I have a dog, so the barking in in the volume comparison of Gogome is like, I would have more tolerance on Gogome. See, our co-host just say yes.
Go play with us. Okay. So I want to hear where you lie. Uniform versus freestyle. What do you?
I would bring up our background first. Where were you when you were little? What your dress? What is your school dress code?
There was none.
There were none, so you freestyle then. It means.
I mean, I never paid attention to it because I never broke the rules when it came to clothing.
What is the rule?
I don't know. I guess no spaghetti straps. No alluring clothing. I mean, a lot of it centers around what women wear because like women, I guess, have more choices. But I remember seeing guys even wearing like the tiny little tank tops, and that was fine. And even in like for instance, I was in cross country. The girls would wear like the very tiny little spandex shorts that basically were underwear, and that was perfectly acceptable. I mean, as long as they wore a t-shirt during the day, the full day, it was fine. But, I mean, specifically after school, I would see girls running in sports bras and things like that. But, I mean, this was, like, 10 years ago?
So your school is a free dress, like a freestyle. For my original, my school was uniform based.
So, like, how is that popular? Did
every school is public school, private school, all of them has to be in uniform.
I think for most places, the only place you really get a uniform in the United States is religious schools required uniforms. I know that there was a school that we used to compete against called Saint something, because I don't know, I don't want people to locate it. But there was a school we would compete against that was an all-female school, and they were required uniforms. And then they had a male version, an all-male school. And I don't think that place was religious. I don't really have much information. But from my understanding, they were full uniform as well.
Interesting. I thought in the state is private school is the one that wear uniform.
Yeah, but a lot of private schools, from my knowledge, I'm not...
religious?
Yeah, most private schools are more centered around religion.
Oh, okay.
From my knowledge. I don't know about other places, but strictly in California, that's my perspective. I mean, when I went to... even when I went to Catholic school, like I went to classes after schooling up north when we used to live there, and there wasn't necessarily a uniform, but there was an expectation that you would dress conservatively, I guess you could say, for Catholic, because my background is Catholicism. And I mean, I never had a problem with it. I never got sent home from school. I actually probably would have, in my opinion, preferred uniforms.
Same, actually. That's what
you prefer uniform.
That's interesting. You come from the background that you were not actually wear a uniform to go for your school, but why would you want to, like, you think uniform is better? Why?
I think it's overall, like, it's I guess it's a form of professionalism. I think because school is basically like work for students in a different way. I think that uniforms would have made it easier for a lot of kids. For instance, actually, no, I did have to use a uniform once. Oh my, I totally forgot. Why do I always forget these? At one point, we had to wear like khakis and polos for one elementary school that I went to. Because I moved to different elementary schools, but that location was in I wouldn't say like a low income area because, but it wasn't exactly a nice area. Like there was kids that died on the street in front of us and stuff like that from getting run over. Like that was a hit and run. There was kids that were shot in that area regularly. But that was when I was growing up. We only lived there for a little bit for my mom to save up some money. But that was one location where I would actually walk home from school a lot in that area.
In that type of dangerous
in that area. Yeah, even though it was like a quarter of a mile from home. Yeah, and in that area where I had walked home from school and we had to wear uniforms, the same street that I always had to cross, like a lot of kids had died. Like it was a street where people regularly drove really, really quickly. Or like there was like a lot of gang area and stuff like that from my knowledge now as an adult.
That's one thing I never actually experienced that when I was in my hometown. Like when I was in school, that's not my major concern. On the street, it's not safe. I don't have those type of idea. Like I don't understand the idea.
Isn't it like Macau? Because I love this story about what job you had at 12 years old where you were making like a pretty decent amount of money.
I have so many jobs. Like, girl, I don't know which one you were mentioned.
Remember there was okay, so you told me this story before and it was fucking hilarious. Where, what was like your worst job that you ever had?
That one is, I was more on the teenager side.
So okay, so you're like 16, yeah.
Yeah, 16, 17-ish. not the 12 years old. The 12 years old, I got a job, but the job is pretty simple. You're just hanging out flyers. Yeah, but though even hanging out flyers, I have to we don't live in one type of house that is on the ground. Macau, all the houses is apartment. So you have 22nd floor, 32 floor. It's really high up. Right? So I have to all the way get to the top to ceiling, all the way up of the apartment, and then walk from the stairs, just hang out fire.
And were you wearing your school uniform while you were doing that, or were you wearing regular clothes?
Of course I get wearing the uniform because I don't want to get caught by security.
Oh, okay, so it's easier to walk around. Okay,
Yep.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So
but
then,
but like I said, I don't have the type of. I could imagine how. Do you feel scared when you get off school and just walk by yourself to go home?
No, actually, there was an experience where someone was supposed to pick me up. Like one particular family member was supposed to pick me up and they completely forgot. But they like to say it was because they were busy at work. Okay, roll my eyes. I know how that person's work ethic. Like that's a joke. And he was supposed to pick me up. He didn't. So then, I waited at school for an hour. We're required to leave after a certain amount of hours.
Yes,
like in elementary school, you're not allowed to hang out. And I remember walking home and I'm standing in front of the house that we're living in at the time. And no one was there. I'm just sitting outside by myself, waiting for someone to come pick me up, for someone to remember that I existed, right? And I don't have a phone. My mom is working a full-time job as a computer science engineer, right? So she's making decent money. And the neighbors saw me. And it was a bunch of bodybuilders, like buff-ass guys. And while I am tiny, like I still remember them being like a huge guys, like 5 guys living in this one house next to us, right? And they said, what is it called? No. Okay, so they walked inside the house, and then I was in my uniform, and I walked over to their house to ask to use the phone because all of the neighbors that I had known to try to knock on the door, no one was home. It's like 3, 4. I think it was like I got off early at noon. It was like 3, 4 p.m., right? And the only number I knew was my mom's phone number. And so I go to the neighbor's house, like directly next to us, and I knock on the door. And I was like, hey, excuse me, would you mind if I use your phone? Someone was supposed to pick me up. No one did. Something along those lines, because obviously I'm young. And they were like, yeah, of course. And I was like, yeah, someone was supposed to pick me up at noon, but it's 3 hours ago. And it's like these huge ass dudes. I've always been lucky when it came to these types of things, because honestly, like, something sketchy could have happened, because I'm I'm an elementary school student. Like, it could have been some sketchy ass shit. And so they brought me in, they gave me the phone, they gave me water, they gave me snacks. And, like, all these guys were, like, gathered around me, making sure that I called the right number, like, making sure I got in contact with my mom. And then each one of them, I think, spoke to my mother from my knowledge and, like, made sure she knew that I was safe for now. And that I would be staying there, like, they didn't want me standing outside because it was dangerous because of the area that we lived in. And that they would be taking care of me until a family member came to pick me up. And they requested that they know the type of car coming, the person's name. Made all those requests to make sure I was going to the right person.
Oh, okay.
And then they continued on to, I think they taught me, like, poker, from what I remember.
What?
Or some type of card game.
I don't know.
Like, we were all playing for, like, an hour. While my mom, which is what she prefers, she doesn't care for, like, abuelita or anything like that, before she came and picked me up, like, an hour and a half later. So I was there until I think about, like, 5 p.m. So I was there for a really long time, actually, from what I remember, because it was getting really dark. And yeah, I was super lucky. A lot of people don't experience that. A lot of people get bad luck getting introduced to the wrong people. But definitely, I think my mom talks about it. She was pissed.
Of course. Who doesn't? Like, I don't know. Like I said, where I grew up doesn't have those type of... That is not the major issues. Like, it still have people that walk around trying, wondering to capture kids. But those percentage is really low in comparison. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because even I moved here when I was like 21. I remember my dad was like yelling at us when we get home at 7 at night. I was adult, 21. But that's a different... Yeah, that's a different story because he's cuckoo.
That's an interesting story. No, like, there's an interesting story behind it. But yeah, no. When I was at that school, I was required to use uniform. I noticed, like, uniforms were required in the United States more in low-income areas. Because, like, obviously, we were in a low-income area. There was, like, a lot of gang violence, so they didn't want any type of gang affiliation with kids. So we were always required to wear uniform. Like, khaki pants, khaki shorts, khaki skirts, and I think it was, like, blue and white polos were the only things that were required. They would prefer that we didn't wear I mean, obviously we're elementary school kids, but some girls would wear, like, glossy stuff and face stuff. But yeah, I find that really interesting. Like, in that whole area up until middle school, and I think even high school in that area, one of my family members had to wear uniform. But it wasn't a gray area to begin with. There was a lot of gang violence in that area.
That's really interesting. Like, I thought majority in the state is only, like I said, that I did some digging. I saw a lot of private school has uniform.
Yeah, they have it there as well. But I don't think people realize in public school in California, if it's a low-income area. I totally forgot about that, actually. I'm actually very surprised that I forgot about that. But yeah, in that area, everyone was required to wear uniform all the time on school campus.
But so you're more towards to you want to wear uniform. If
I had a choice in high school, I think I would have wore a uniform. I think I made a lot of horrible fashion mistakes.
I think that's the point that I do not. The reason I support uniform is the background where I came from, and to comparison here, I was like, how people doing this? Because you have to think about the next day what you can wear.
Yeah, I think that's also that as well. But there's also that you can differentiate between class, right? Because after I moved from the low income area, I went to a very high income area. because my mom was able to gather enough money to move us into a fairly nice neighborhood, in my opinion, obviously. And we were always we were allowed to wear whatever we wanted, and you could tell the difference between kids that came from money and those who didn't. Where it would have been, I mean, obviously you can wear the designer backpacks and stuff, but people would wear very nice clothing, the expensive clothing, and wear all the nice makeup and stuff. And I mean, while makeup and backpacks can differentiate you from the crowd, but at the same time, like, does that I think with clothing it helps like mask those types of things, so kids feel like they have more of an equal footing. Because I think that people become very judgmental, especially children become very judgmental without even realizing about money.
Actually, that is a really good point. You even mentioned it in the later on of the series on the episode.
Post?
Yeah. At the Reddit post. I didn't know that. I'm surprised.
What?
Like, people will actually bless their money, like, because they can wear free clothing. I mean, what type of stuff they can show off?
I mean, you would be surprised. Some people came in with like full-on jewelry, like gold and stuff.
Jewelry is allowed?
Yeah, jewelry was allowed. There was some girl that would always come with like the installed fake eyelashes before it was popularized. Because now everyone gets their eyelashes done. But there was one girl who I remember distinctly would wear eyelashes. I think I told you one time that there was a girl wearing like a bra and like white lace and stuff like that, and the expensive jeans. I remember like a lot of things about people talking about getting fake tans and things like that. And then even the uniform stuff for kids were extremely expensive. I know that the cheerleaders would drop hundreds of dollars on everything that they would need just for cheerleading. I think up to $1,000 to make sure that they were cheer ready. Even the dance members, I guess, like won this type of award constantly, but they talked about how they would have to spend $2,000 to $3,000 on their costumes regularly just to stay in like dance. It doesn't guarantee that they do get to dance because you have to hold up a specific standard. And I remember people coming in with very expensive cars. There was one junior and senior that was extremely popular. Like, he came in with like a brand new truck all the time, and the schoolyard was filled with like a full sleet of like vehicles and stuff like that of different people. Even like a brand new Mercedes, like a bunch of people actually had that. And it's like, and people would wear those nice clothing to school, and I thought that was kind of unfair to other kids. I mean, I come from a middle class single mother. She makes enough money if she has a partner, right? Like, if she had a partner that was making the same income, that's a really nice livelihood to have. But it's a single mom who's bringing in a certain amount of money, paying the bill by herself. We were renting all the rooms, so it's like clothes. We would get it from like Marshalls, you know, like not exactly low income, but if we wanted clothing, there was no point in spending a lot of money because that's just a luxury. And I wouldn't say that we were cheap. Like, my mom wasn't a cheap person. She would buy me the nice things if I really, really asked for it. But I did hear no quite a lot. And I felt like it would have been more fair if we all wore uniforms. I think it would have been a lot easier on the parents as well, who come from middle class to lower class.
I think the part that I can see for people that wear freestyle, in comparison, that is a good thing, is that they don't use their school as a social status. Because in Macau, like, we wear uniform. Like, you look at other people, you will see, oh, okay, this person is from this school. I was in the Band 5 school. What they consider Band 5 is like the worst, all of the worst. Like, I'm not serious. That's what the name, just pop out the name or pop the uniform on, people will judge you. Oh, you from that school? You must be a bad kid.
But you were in the business section, right? From what I remember. You said that you picked a certain tier.
Yeah.
So that's different than what you can't necessarily choose the tier. I remember that they were coming up with a new theme right? Kind of like yours, where you could choose your, you could focus on something, right? So my focus was on health. So all my class basis were always had to have a health background. I mean, I didn't end up in health at all, for good reasons for myself. But I feel like that's very interesting that they would judge you based off what school you went to.
Yeah, of course. It's like the social status, not just only within the competition in your school. You also outside the school. You walk on the street, you wear just like in the military. You walk on the street, you wear uniform. You representing some type of status. If that makes sense.
No, it does, because like the clothes you wear at a regular school would show your status as a human being. And so my question would be, in your individual school, was there a way someone dressed to show what type of person they were? Like, did anyone wear it like inappropriately or something? Was that super common, or was that not, like rolling up the skirts really high?
Yeah, that's our way to say no. Like we couldn't have our freedom to change our wardrobe. And guess what? We don't want a long sleeve, so we roll our sleeve. We don't want our skirts get into the knee, so we roll 2 inch up and such. But the maximum you can go is still uniform, so it wouldn't be that bad.
And even 2 inches above the knee isn't like the worst thing that I've heard. I mean, I've seen girls which I thought was super interesting at my school. Girls would wear, obviously, the running. I mean, tank top was fine. Spaghetti straps was the problem. But I would see girls wear the shorts from, the fact that we have to run. Let's say we had a competition that day, or track had a meet that week or whatever, and they would wear their shorts, and that would be acceptable, even though the shorts that I'm wearing now, which are 4 inches, would be considered long to them. It would be like the one that's super underneath the butt cheek, right cupping the butt, and that was perfectly normal. So, but was interesting, I wasn't allowed to do that. My mom would have me wear, she would like me to wear. Sometimes I didn't, obviously, because it's rebellion. What else are you gonna do when you're a kid? But she would recommend that I wear black spandex shorts, which was actually very smart, because I'm someone whose like legs will always touch together no matter how skinny I get, and it would cause major chafing. The tiny spandex little shorts that I would wear would cause like bleeding in between my thighs because of all the running, and it was so uncomfortable. It was a burning sensation. But girls would wear those shorts throughout the whole day, and they wouldn't get sent home because technically they're wearing a school uniform. Like they're technically wearing school representation. Those are the shorts that you have to wear for cross country. Those were the colors. That's what was provided.
No, for PT class, our pants is like flowy, like legit flowy.
I mean, that's what PE would wear, right? But it's a sport, so
it's still a sport. PT is still a sport. No matter what type of sport you're doing, it's still the same type of uniform that you get wear.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so PE wore differently than each individual sport, and you would have to pay for your sports
really?
clothing. Yeah. You had to pay for all of that.
Oh wow.
So no one pays for that. Yeah.
Wow, whoa, like that's actually blow my mind. I thought, okay, you guys can wear whatever you guys want, but I didn't know that you guys have like.
We also, not only do you have to pay for your regular clothing that you wear throughout the day, but for sports, you have to pay for what you're gonna wear. And so that's what a little bit peeves me out, because I guess a sport is an elective, right? You elect to be a part of that sport, but if you need it for college, right, to get into college acceptance, they would prefer that you be in a sport, but then you also have to pay for it. So these parents are shelling out. I mean, for my uniform was cheap, right? The shorts and the t-shirt were the tank top technically. So it was up to the neck, and then it was around the shoulders, right there, right? So it's a thick tank top, but it's fairly tight. And I think it equaled out like $45, $56, which isn't that bad, considering that football, I think they had to pay for all their own padding, they had to pay for their jock strap, right, the stuff that protects, you know, their penis and everything. They would have to pay for different types of uniform, so their parents would shell out probably around $300 to $500 to make sure that they had everything that they need to be a part of that sport. And that's just football.
So you think that it's actually freestyle is cheaper, or wear uniform is cheaper?
I feel like uniform is cheaper. I sincerely think that.
I think so.
It sounds like it, because if parents are paying all this money to make sure that they can be individualistic, all you need is 3 different types of each thing, right? Like a pair of pants, a pair of shorts, a pair of skirt for a girl specifically, 3 different types of shirt. You make sure you wash it throughout the week, you're fine.
Yeah, that's
or
how
even
we
like a different pair even every single day. If you have to wear that all year, it's not really a problem compared to every single day. What was like a really common thing is that a lot of girls wouldn't wear the same thing for the next
that's what I'm thinking.
2 to 3 weeks, right? For the next 2 to 3 weeks, you don't want to really match. So you would always have to have like at least 3 different pairs of jeans, 2 different pairs of pants, multiple pairs of skirts and shorts. That adds up, whereas they can have pajamas after school with their uniform, you know, they have their clothing for the weekend. I feel like overall it's super cheap compared to what parents normally have to pay.
I don't know. Even for my own wardrobe as a work right now, I only have 1 week of setting of 5 different clothes, and then guess what? Next week I'm gonna wear the same thing.
I mean, I feel like I do the same thing for work too. Like I have but then I also try to make sure that things I can wear outside of work are similar to what I can wear during work.
Yeah, facts.
But I feel like work is completely different than your independent life, right? So you and we would never wear, for instance,
skirt.
Yeah, oh my God, we could never.
I don't know. My company actually allow people to wear skirt. It's just my job title that if I wear skirt, people will like look at me funny.
Yeah, because you have to move around a lot. And for me too, like I have to wear pants. It's required. I have to wear closed-toed shoes. I can't wear sandals. And then I'm also required to dress business casual. So like button-ups, polos are what's requested. I mean, obviously as a girl, I wear blouses and things like that. But I feel like it's basically uniform, right? Because you want to set up a specific perspective.
Yes.
Professionalism, which is why I also like uniforms for, you know, high schoolers and stuff like that. I think it teaches kids to be, because I feel like it also takes away identity too. I feel like a lot of people are obsessed with having their own identity.
Yeah.
And while it does strip them away of that, they have less to worry about.
I think if you wear freestyle, you have more choice for people to target you to do bullying. Because, like, for example, your fashion choice is more emo. Guess what? Guess what? People will walk around and start to say, oh, this person is such.
Why do I feel attacked right now? Because, like, my freshman year, all of my middle school was all, like, very much, like, purple plaid. I had my little, not super teased scene hair, but I did have a bunch of layers. I had choppy bangs. As I told you,
I didn't judge you.
Yeah, I know. You know who judges me though? My husband judges me because we did go to the same high school. So he likes to bring out the old. He likes to bring out the old, which is actually perfect, right? Because he has all the books from his freshman to senior year, and he's a year older than me, so he graduated my junior year. I never ever purchased a yearbook, ever, until my senior year.
Okay.
That's the only year I have. So he has all my photos from freshman to junior year.
Oh my God.
That I've decided to erase from memory. Well, like it was a lot of like black, and it was a lot of, and then there was like, I think it was like the vice president of French Honor Society, and like all these dweebish type things. Not in a bad way. Like I love those things about me, but super duper dorky. And he has all those videos. Like he likes to open up the yearbook and just relentlessly mock me.
See, exactly. That's where I don't know. I feel like if kids don't now they actually consider, okay, what I'm gonna wear tomorrow, the next day, and even not try to get bullied. This is such a big pressure on their back.
I guess. I mean, some people felt that pressure, but for me, I wasn't allowed to wear makeup, so that was fine. And while I did have a lot of acne in school, I mean, not wearing makeup, I think the fact that I wasn't allowed to wear that much makeup made me pressure to be more comfortable in my own skin personally. I don't know how other people felt, but I knew people at school. I knew of people, and I saw those people wearing a full face of makeup, a full-on perm. They would have everything, their nails done. And for instance, I wasn't allowed to get my nails done. It wasn't a thing. My mom thought it wasn't very feminine, and she thought it was actually quite gross, in her opinion. So I wasn't allowed to get my nails done or anything like that. And so, yeah, I wasn't necessarily allowed to shave, but I mean, I did try to shave my freshman year until I was 15. But it does create like a huge pressure for kids, right? Mm-hmm. To look a certain way, to have a certain type of clothing, possibly. I mean, I didn't have very many friends in high school, so I can't even say.
They try to blend in.
I think people try to blend in. I guess people could say I was more of a teacher's pet because like I always wanted to answer the question. So I was like, never actually being right? Because like I'm never guaranteed to be right. Like I'm pretty sure I was wrong a lot of the times, but I just enjoyed the act of class more than making friends with people or doing anything like that. I enjoyed the act of learning, even though I wasn't successful and it was very difficult out of school for me. But I don't know. I don't. For me, clothing was. I think I was an utter dork. Like, I still have clothing from my freshman year that I still have.
Do you feel pressure, or do you feel like don't know what to wear the next day and you have to put thought into it, or you just randomly grab something you can grab from your closet?
When I was in high school or now?
High school.
Okay, because let's see. Because it's kind of difficult when you're this age and then you try to remember back in high school, because it wasn't like high school. I thought it was the time of my life. Like, I was literally just trying to get through it. Like, let this be over already and be an adult.
I feel a lot of pressure when I was back then.
I think, from what I remember, every night I would lay out my clothing to wear. So I would spend like 10 minutes just making sure it was folded, because I had to get to the bus. So I had to be ready an hour before everybody else.
Oh,
why? Because the bus, I was one of the first, not the first people to get picked up, but I was one of the earliest.
Oh.
So it's 40 minutes before school, and the bus would pick me up 40 minutes before school started, 40 to 50, and we were always at least 20 minutes early. So I was always pretty much set, and I was always trying to leave. I had to be ready at a specific time to get to the bus on time, and I'm that person that was always on time for the bus. I've never been late to the bus. I was always the earliest one.
Teacher favorite.
Possibly. I didn't like being late to the bell. It really gave me a ton of anxiety. Now that I know what anxiety is, obviously, but before, so I was always trying to be early, on time. I could never be late. That was like a crime to me. So I don't think I put much thought in my clothing. I don't even think I spent more than 10 minutes. I think I would spend like 5-6 minutes deciding what I was going to wear. I think I put my most thought my senior year, and that's pretty much it. I think I wore heels like 3 times.
Heels? You can wear heels to school?
Oh, yeah.
No, wow.
Like, there was one teacher I remembered who strictly wanted to look attractive when she went to work.
Okay, but that's teacher, though.
Yeah, and there was, but other kids did it as well. Like, it was very normal to just look your best as possible. And it wasn't like I was wearing heels. I was wearing, booties. So, 2 inches high, boots. So, and that was because I was always the shortest one in class. So, it made my life a lot easier to wear.
Heels?
Yeah.
That's interesting. You can use that as an advantage. I mean, if it's freestyle, guess what? if you want to get to certain height, you can just wear heel.
I
never
know.
even think about that.
No, but I only wore like 2-inch heels, and it was more for a practical sense than anything. But yeah, heels were pretty common. I even wore like sneaker heels to school and things like that. Like, but that was only my senior year. I don't think I put too much thought process my freshman towards junior year. I think it pretty much was over everything my senior year.
For us, is more since we're in uniform, they require us to iron our clothing. So
really?
we have to look like pristine. Like you have to make sure your stuff is ironed, it's not wingle. If not, you're gonna get sent back.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I was a wrinkly ass bitch. I, like, you see me, I still go to work with wrinkles in my like, I'll wear like a full on button up, but it's filled with fucking wrinkles. I don't care.
You know the quick trick to make you, if you don't have time to iron it, is put your clothes to the dryer, spray some softener.
Oh yeah.
And just put it on high heat for 2 minutes, and then it will be like, it will be good to go.
Let me just look around my 1-bedroom apartment to see if I have a dryer.
I didn't think of that, but I mean, for the people that didn't know, that's my trick.
Oh no, Coda says that I do the he says that I do the getaway, which I think is hilarious. He says because when I want something to unwrinkle, if I have something important at work, like let's say for instance I had a board meeting to go to like a few weeks ago, I put it in I took a hot shower, a super hot shower. I made sure it was really hot with steam. I closed the door and I left the clothes in there to steam on a hanger. And he was looking at me like he was like,
that's genius. That's such a frugal genius.
I was just too cheap to walk to the dryer in my apartment. So I was like, fuck it. And so, like, my mom would do it too. Like, we both...
Does it work, though?
Yeah, I mean, like, it de-wrinkles a little bit. It doesn't work perfectly. You have to get it, like, super close to the shower.
Oh.
But it helps overnight. Like, if you overnight it, like, it's perfect.
Huh.
Like, if you do, like, a good... Not, like, super long shower, but if you make sure that it's in there for, like, a good 10 minutes, you're fucking good for the next day. On a hanger, it's fucking... It was the best thing. I did that in high school, too. When I wanted something, like, nicely done, I would shower the day before school.
Why don't you just use iron?
Dude, I was too fucking lazy. I had an iron, and we did have a dryer at my house. I was too fucking lazy. I was like, I'm not gonna fucking move my arm. There was other things to worry about.
You have the time to hang it and put it in your shower, and you don't have time to just put it in the dryer.
Don't explain the dumbass that I was. I mean, trust me, I know.
The timing will be the same, you know? For you to put it over there, you already get it unwrinkled.
But guess what? I learned a valuable skill now as an adult that doesn't have a dryer or washer in my apartment. Like, I have the full capability of knowing how to dry my clothes. But even Coda does that. Like, before our wedding, he put it in the...
That's what you did?
Yeah, he did that. I thought it was fucking hilarious. Because he, like, obviously we got both of our things in the mail. Like, we got both of our, like, outfits in the mail. So, yeah, that's what he did to the pants to steam it. Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was beautiful.
Oh, my God. We should have a lesson for frugal life and living.
Dude, yeah, Coda and I are fucking cheap. Like, we didn't want to have to pay, what is it, like $2 to dry our clothing. So we just, like, hang it in there. And then, yeah, what is it called? When Coda's too lazy to walk the laundry back to the dryer, because sometimes our clothes will stay wet, especially if we're doing the bedding. So he'll lay it out on the couch, open the window, open the fan, and that's how we dry it, because he's too lazy and he's too cheap to pay for the dryer to continue. And we'll just lay on, like, the flat bed, because we're both way too cheap to worry about that. Yeah.
I mean, on the other hand, I never seen a dryer until I came to the state. When I was in Macau, we hang our clothes on the string. It's weird,
right? Yeah, in Nicaragua we do it too. Like, it was perfectly normal to dry it, to have, like,
a string outside your
and
window.
Just dry everything out in the patio area. And even my family members that eventually bought a washer, they didn't have a dryer, even though they could afford it. That was just not the thing to do. It's fucking weird. for here in the United States, it's weird to have a dryer when is it really a necessity? It's not. It's a luxury. It's a pointless luxury. Fucking hang your clothes like a normal person.
No, I would support 100% the United States way. Like I was usually I usually hang my mom's clothes all the time when I was little, especially jeans. Oh my god, when you hang jeans, y'all, you have to flip inside out. If not, it's so hard to dry.
No, but here's the thing, that jeans shrink so easily in the dryer, even including a shit ton of clothing, so it's better to air dry it, or else you go through clothes a lot faster.
I wouldn't want to put my hand into the wet clothing and
how
like
damp
inside
is it? How damp
God,
is it?
Super damp.
Why do you do that? You should do it like you're supposed to do it at the correct type of clothing amount and temperature so that it's like basically on the verge. It's super close to drying.
No, we don't separate all the clothes. We just pile up every single thing: white, black, underwear,
you're a crazy
bra,
person.
Jeans, t-shirt.
Oh my god. I remember, I told you how Coda shrunk all her clothing, and it was like a consistent, like, I was upset for a few days. Like, first of all, he washed her clothing and hot clothing all together instead of separating it like I had asked. And it turns out he'd been doing it for a while, so I never understood why I felt like my clothing was getting like smaller.
And you get really upset about it too.
I know, I was super upset. I was like, I spent money on this clothing. Like, this is money. He was like, but I just wanted to dry faster and go through the laundry faster. And I was like, dude, why didn't you just bring it back? I would have hang dried it if you didn't want to pay for the dryer. Like, that doesn't bother me. But now half of my clothing is shrunk. All my work clothing is shrunk. Do you remember that I came to work with
you were sad. Like, you were like all the way upset. Like, you was like, I need to buy new clothes. I need to, after this
I have to spend money. Yeah, I was like, I have to spend money now. Like, and I was telling him, I was like, do you realize that now, because you didn't want to spend like a little bit of extra money, now I have to shell out like $300 on new clothing? Because it was all my jeans. All my jeans shrunk. All my work slacks shrunk. Expensive ones too, because I wanted to look professional for work. And so I was like, I remember how upset I was. I mean, like, it's pretty trivial to be upset about those things, but yeah, I think I was upset for maybe a little bit too long. Now that I think about it, and he was like so understanding about it, and I was super emotional about it. Yeah, I think I started crying. I was I was crying, and I was like, this is why I've been feeling fat lazy. Like, I've been feeling fat because all my clothing has shrunk when I'm really the actual same size. And then I started crying, and he was like, he was so understanding about it. Like he let me be super emotional. So I'm very thankful for that he didn't like try to mock me or anything, because honestly, I mock me now. Like, me being that emotional, it was a fucking joke in my opinion, because it's clothes. Those things are replaceable. As long as he pays for it, as long as he pays for what he replaces, I'm fine. Right? Like, that's fair. Mm-hmm. Like, if you damage something. And you know what's hilarious? He didn't even pay to replace all my clothing. I think he only paid to replace like 60% of it, which is fine. Mm-hmm. That's nice enough, because I know how cheap he is. Like, he went through every single store and helped me pay for everything. Mm-hmm. Like, not everything, but like helped me go through every single store to find clothing for myself. Mm-hmm. But this is why I think uniforms are better.
Yes.
Because it's like so expensive. Clothing is so expensive, especially nowadays. I can only imagine how a parent feels. And like, me shrinking all that clothing is like a crime. Not me, but him shrinking all that clothing is hundreds of dollars just burned. And when you don't have that money to spend, that money to pay for, I can only think of how a parent would feel if a kid accidentally shrunk their clothing because they're learning how to take care of themselves, you know?
I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, you're one of those type of people bring up the idea that I didn't think that, I need to separate my clothing when I wash. I just wash it.
I look at every single label. And I remember how it's supposed to be washed. And then I keep it that way. That's why I have clothing still from my high school days that I can wear to this day. I have clothing that I've had like 4 or 5 years old that I can still wear to this day.
You think that's the reason why? I mean, mine's too.
I mean, but like, for instance, my mother, I watched her go through a shit ton of clothing because she wouldn't wash it correctly, and it would fucking frustrate me. So even like the way my grandmother would wash it would frustrate at me as well, because a lot of clothing would shrink, so you have to wash it a specific way. And you know, I think it's just important to maintain. I know this sounds super like
OCD.
high strung, but you have to keep the integrity of the items that you purchase, especially because that's money. Every time you wear an item of clothing, the dollar amount that you had to spend to put it on becomes less every single day.
Yeah, just like car.
Yeah, exactly. Right? The more you're able to drive it, the less you paid per day to drive it, which is why I've had my car for almost 10 years. Right? There's almost 200,000 miles on it. And every time I drive it, it's a little bit cheaper, the amount that I spent for it. And I take that, I wouldn't say extremely seriously, but it sounds like I'm super serious right now.
You are. Like, that's, I don't know. I think it's a good habit to have. It's just that it's too trivial for me. Like, I don't pay little attention for every single thing. Like, I feel like I will pay attention on some other stuff.
I think it's just me. I think that also because of my body type, it takes forever to find clothing in the first place, and it's been like that since I was a kid, which is why I always did prefer uniforms, is because when you find the item that fits, that's great. Just keep wearing that, because the more you feel better in what you wear, the easier the day becomes. So much easier. The less you have to stress about things, the less you have to worry. I remember the first time I started my period, right? I was in 5th grade. I was on the bus. Biggest mistake of my life. I wore white pants.
Oh my God. No.
Why? On the very first time I ever started my period. Bled. Like bled. And I remember a guy on the bus who sat next to me, and I still remember him to this day. And
did he say something?
Oh yeah, he screamed it on the bus. He's a guy. He was 1 year younger than me, and he literally sat next to me and started screaming about how ew, I was gross. I started my period.
How's that even gross? I think the society, like,
because I was bleeding everywhere. Like, the blood was on the seat.
Oh, okay.
And I don't blame him because he's a teenage boy, but imagine how much easier it would have been if I was wearing like plaid or black. Or if I was wearing khakis, it would have been 10 times better than white. What? I'm an idiot. Like, who does that?
I mean, you learn your lesson. Do you have any pants that's white now?
No, I never wear. I didn't even wear white on my wedding day.
Yeah, I was like, skip.
But that's the thing, though. I think that when it comes to freestyle versus uniform, just personally, I think it just makes so much life easier not to have to think, because there's so much more important things to worry about. But I understand the perspective that some people want that independence to show themselves, to express themselves. I'm a lazy female. Like, I'm lazy. I don't want to have to prepare things. And so even to this day, I prepare what I think about. For 5 minutes a day, I think, okay, this is what I'm going to wear to work tomorrow. And that's it. And then I know where it's at. I know where to grab it. It takes me less than 15 minutes to get ready for work.
Same. I guess you just are, like, the type of personality that we are, that we don't try to spend time to
think about all those things. Yeah, I slick back my hair, put it in a bun. I put on sunscreen, put on some chapstick, and then once in a while you'll see that I wear makeup.
Like blue moon. Once in a blue moon, I will see you in the makeup.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I used to do makeup all the time. Like, all purple, blue. Remember, I was kind of gothic in high school, so I would even wear, I think, I wear, like, black lipstick once to school. I would wear, like, the very dark colors. And even when I was 18, 19, there's photos of me with, like, almost pitch black makeup on all the time.
makeup is prohibited in Macau.
In Macau?
Yeah.
So like even in
Like
so you weren't
in
allowed
uniform, you're not.
even if it was like skin tone, you wouldn't be able to.
A skin tone is fine. Like for example, you have a green eyeshadow on your face, or purple. No, everything has to be neutral. Like yeah, like you can't wear black lipstick. You'll go home.
Oh shit, that's interesting. I mean, but it makes sense, especially because like isn't Macau very like strict?
Just like in China, the same thing. I saw a lot of school in China. They don't allow you to wear makeup. Mm-hmm. No eyelash. Like you got caught, you gotta get sent home. Your nails is not supposed to be done. Like you're supposed to in the pure form, because if you do makeup, other people doesn't. You got judging them. They try to minimize those like conflicts, so you won't allow to do those things. So now you couldn't judge them.
Okay. I mean, I get that. For me, personally, I think when I think school uniform, I only think of the clothing. I don't think about the makeup or the nails done. I think that's perfectly fine in my opinion. Like whatever you want to do, girl or guy, whatever you want to do is fine. But it's just, to me, the clothing part was just too much effort.
Yeah, same. I feel like the reason why I want uniform is the same idea. I think it's so much easier. I don't have to care about when I'm trying to impress of somebody, or somebody got judge me because I'm wearing the stuff that they normally don't get used to see. And yeah, that's why. Actually, let's bring it up. I just saw this one interesting topic in Reddit. Yeah, on Reddit.
You love Reddit, don't you?
No, not necessary, but the topic majority we can find is in Reddit already. Like I want to put out agua. That's the other one that I normally look into it.
What? Agua?
Yeah.
Like water? Like in Spanish?
Yeah, that is a form too. So this person in Reddit, his name is called Dry Junket 9686. So I'm gonna include this in the description. He mentioned, she actually is a she. She mentioned all schools should have uniform. The reason why uniform may seem oppressive, but they do a lot of good as well. She thinks that for starter, for personal experience, they feel the pressure to look and dress certain way when going to school, especially high school. They're not. She said that she wasn't that wealthy, and they were living in a good neighborhood, but they went to high school in the public school, where most students like came from very privileged background, and she feel a lot poor, and feel like the stricter family often felt left out because they don't have the money to buy those type of stuff.
I guess so. But I think that people could get offended by anything. Like, I can understand where she's coming from. Like, there was a run we used to have to do that it was exactly 3 miles, right? Mm-hmm. And so our coach would call it the ghetto loop, right? It's a loop. And while it was near the more poorer part of the towns, it was not at all poor. And we had to run around it wasn't a bodega, but it was like a liquor store, like a regular little store that you could get stuff, into school. And the girl was so offended that he called it ghetto loop because she happened to live by that area. She complained to her parents, and her parents came and complained to the school that he was making the kids run around a loop, but he called it ghetto loop. And he literally went in front of the whole entire... I was like, this girl made her life so much dumber. Because this girl was complaining about those things. Mm-hmm. And then our teacher goes up in front of the whole entire cross country, which is about 50 kids, 50, 60 kids. Mm-hmm. And says, okay, so we're not going to call it ghetto loop no more, because some people like to complain. And then he looks at her. Mm-hmm. Because supposedly ghetto, which I was just talking about an area, because ghetto originally means an area. He was like, we're going to call it the corner store, because some people like to get offended over the smallest things. And it's like, everyone knew exactly who he was talking about. because she was the only person, or she was one of like 3 people that lived there, but she enjoyed complaining a lot, like always extremely offended, always had to be supposedly a warrior for what she considered wrong, but no one else had a problem with it. And the thing is that, like, I understand, my perspective is still, yeah, it does help kids get less offended, but I do think that it helps you grow thick skin, right? Because while I didn't have the nicest clothing, and I have lived in a poorer area than she ever did, the person that I'm speaking about, I guess I can see both sides. Does that make more sense? Like, I can see the impoverished side where you don't want people to notice those things. It's really embarrassing. It's uncomfortable throughout the day, and I think people should feel as comfortable as possible. But then at the same time, it teaches you to accept that people aren't always going to say the nicest things about you. Not everyone is going to judge you based off your integrity or who you are as a person. Some people are going to judge you based off your looks. But you can still look professional. You can still look good without paying the extreme amount of prices. You see all these rich people nowadays in their 20s and teens going to thrift stores because now it's considered cool, right? It's cool to be able to go there. And so I think that there's 2 sides to every corner. And while I was earlier stating that I would prefer it, and I still do prefer it because it makes people's lives easier, it makes parents' lives easier, but I don't really remember being that sensitive, like getting my feelings hurt because I had less.
I guess but each person was raised differently, you know, like they're entitled to how they felt.
Exactly, yeah. No, she has every right to feel how she feels, and I do agree that uniforms is better and easier for everyone around, and it gives everyone an equal footing on the learning grounds. And I think that school for teenagers is still way too expensive than it needs to be, even in public school. But I really don't remember the feeling of feeling less than for having less. I never felt that way. My mom never made me feel that way. Family members never. Like, I always felt, even though now I recognize, like when we were especially young and living in an impoverished neighborhood, I never felt like I had less. So I think it's interesting that she felt that way. And I wonder if it's, if her parents felt that way as well. Not being able to give her as much as she felt that she needed. Or if she felt less than. You know, I find it very interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I think, just like you said, people get offended by a lot of stuff. Like, no matter what you do, everybody get things differently. If you take every single thing to heart, it's gonna make your life so much harder.
Oh, yeah, because when I would see the richer kids wearing all these expensive clothing and even getting, like, spray tans and you know, getting the expensive fake nails, I always thought it was dumb. Why? Personally.
They already spend money at that early age. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, I thought it was such a waste of money. That was just my perspective. Even as a young adult, or a child basically, I thought it was just a waste of money. Solely because I was like, wow, I would spend it on something completely different. And I think that I guess I did get to spend the money that I want to, like, as a kid, because my mom would buy me, like, trunk loads of books. Like, clothing, I got to know a lot, right, on the items that I wanted to purchase. But I had, like, 3 whole bookcases filled with books. Whatever book I wanted, I was allowed to get, as many as I wanted. My mom never said no to me being able to buy a book, except if it exceeded 10 books at a time.
Oh, okay.
Like, purchasing once a week, because we would hang out at the bookstore all day when I was a kid.
That's such a good habit.
Well, because my mom didn't want to turn on the air conditioning.
Yeah, never mind.
No, yeah, because air conditioning is expensive, and so instead of, you know, we didn't go to the movies, we went to the bookstore. And my mom would study for school, or she would study for work or get work done, and I was just lying on the bookstore everywhere, because they would keep telling me I can't sit on the floor. So I would move to different locations all over the bookstore with a different book. And then at the end, my mom's like, what books do you want to get? And I would pick out a stack. And if it exceeded 10, I couldn't get it. I had to deliberate. I had to get only 10 a week. And I would read those 10 books within
That's
a week.
That's a lot already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've read, to this day, I still read books every single day.
Oh, wow. Dang.
Sorry, I went off on a tangent. It was because, like, I guess the reason, my perspective, while I do agree with her, the reasoning is slightly similar, but I disagree a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I can understand, I guess, the perspective of feeling hurt,
mm-hmm.
especially if you're ostracized. She probably felt ostracized a lot, and that sucks.
Yeah, but I think everybody, like, whoever, when I was a kid, I care about all those stuff as well.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Did you feel ostracized a lot as a kid?
I was the bully child. Like, I got bullied a lot, and I bully somebody too. Like, I have been two sides of the coin. Like,
mm-hmm.
I see both sides, so I think it's just when we were kids, we have nothing better to do instead of, like, judging others. Like, you only go for school, you study for your school. What else can you do? You're not paying for bills. You're not worried about the rest of the stuff that society needs you to worry about as a human being. You only focus on so much in your school or your status. That's why you get trapped into, oh, okay, if they don't like me, I need to get bullied, or I need to bully somebody, or
mm-hmm.
I need to dress a certain way. Those, when I grow up now, I feel like unnecessary. I don't really give a shit about other people.
No, I can get that. I think that's why I'm kind of thankful my mom always kept me super busy. Like, while she wasn't around, she gave me plentiful of items to do. Like, I learned how to cook at an early age. I started cooking at 5 years old. And I was always given books to read all the time. And, you know, plenty of Legos. I mean, that was it, basically, what I would mostly play with. And I would watch a lot of sci-fi movies and things like that. So that was always my distraction. I never had I don't know if I bullied anyone. I might have. I have no idea. But I really didn't feel any urge to, you know,
to go on a...
I don't know. I think that I was, I guess, so my mom and I talk about it a lot. Like, I was alone a lot as a kid, but I always kept myself busy into this day and age. Like, you see me, I'm always busy. I'm always trying to do something, anything.
So you don't have a problem when you're a little child? You don't feel some type of feeling is hurt, or...
I mean, yeah, but for other things, not for, like, the amount of stuff I had or didn't have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, obviously, I had more issues in my home life than I did at school. That's just the reality. Like, so I was, like, school, I could escape, just chill out in my corner, you know. And while I did socialize, linger a little bit, I still see people from high school on my feed and stuff like that, and I see what they're doing when I check, like, once or twice a week. But other than that, I'm interested in the people I get to hang out with, my friends, that I sincerely feel are my friends. Like, so I consider you a friend, and to this day, I center my focus on the people that I'm hanging out on a regular basis than I do on, you know...
other stuff.
Yeah. I feel like people still seem online, like, online seems as if it's another form of high school.
It is. You see a lot of people behind the monitor. They just, like, say all kind of bad stuff to the other person. It sounds like it's not gonna hurt the other people. It still hurt.
Yeah, I could see that. I can definitely see online. There's some people who I see in the comments, and I think because I enjoy reading the comments than I do actually watching the video. And I see people say some things, and some people are extremely nice. They're very lovely. But then I see on people's, you know, comment section, I was like, do you have nothing better to do? Like, couldn't you say something construction? Like, I don't necessarily agree with this, but I agree with that, or I completely disagree. Like, I see those comments sometimes, the way people want to say they disagree, But a lot of people say some vile ass shit, and all I'm thinking is like, you must have nothing better to do in your life. Like the people who are like chismosos. Do you know what that means?
No.
The people that like to gossip a ton, right? Because they have nothing better to do in their life, right? The people that, like, gossiping is fun. It's a way to socialize. I don't disagree. And I'm as judgmental as the next person. That's why we have this podcast. Like, you and I, not in a bad way, but we do enjoy judging, right?
Yeah.
That's the fun of everything. But at the same time, like,
you don't have to be mean about it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to be mean. And so it sucks that even in high school, we're seeing what's going on in high school, and it's happening more in real life. Where, I mean, online life is considered real life, and I see people trying to prove everything that they have, or how they're better than an individual or individuals because they have more things going on in their life.
Or their choice is better than the other person's choice.
Yeah, and that was super common in high school. I would see it around. Where, you know, a tanning, a 15-year-old going for a spray tan and not necessarily bragging about it, but in a way just trying to show what she can afford or what her parents can afford her, or even getting boob jobs and nose jobs. There were certain people at my high school that got that at an early age, like 16, 17.
To show their status?
In a way, I mean, I know for a fact there was one girl, I believe in our high school, who her parents gave her the option at 16, do you want a nose job or a boob job? I would recommend the nose job. Was what the mom said. And so the daughter got a nose job in high school, and she hasn't even fully grown yet, right? I don't think surgery for a kid, I find that very dangerous. I would never want a kid to get hurt under a snip that early in age. And then later on, she got a boob job.
That's such a... Oh my god, I don't know what the parent was thinking. Like, you're supposed to be an adult instead of you become the kids is not grown yet, so they don't know what they want. I didn't even know what I wanted, even I was like 21, 22.
Oh yeah, and that girl was very intelligent. She had like a 4.0 average. She is gorgeous to this day. Very beautiful, like model-esque, right? And she, from my understanding, she does model. And so does her other family member, because they are extremely beautiful. But I just find that it's just, I would never want to, I've been under at a young age, and I would never want to go, I would never electively put someone under that at a young age unless it was a requirement. It's just my opinion. And so I guess with that Reddit post, I will still say in some senses, it sounds very emotionally inclined, right? But because of like not wanting to express status, I understand that. So I guess I like 80% agree with her. I guess, I don't know. I'm making up percentages in my brain because I can't. I'm not gonna calculate it right now. I'm too lazy to.
Yeah, I can see that. Actually, that's another person was replying on those on the first Reddit post. Is the name called Stability Tuesday. That person actually was with a school with uniform, and she said it didn't help with any of the funds you mentioned. We could still have who have money, and so who have money and who doesn't. Even you're in uniform.
Yeah, you can. Because you can show how much you spend on nails, you can show how much you spend on hair. And I think uniform is more of a, when it comes to status thing, I would think it would be more of a girl thing. Would you agree with that? Because you can express more with more feminine things. Well, if a guy wants to wear nails and do his makeup, that's fine. But you can show more of your status through those as well. Whereas, like, I think my focus was it's not only cheaper for the parent, but in my opinion, it's overall easier for the kid because they don't have to worry about what they wear all the time, and there's less money you have to spend.
She was actually mentioned that she feel like the uniformity is always going to be an undue burden on the poor student.
Why would that be? Oh, I know what they're talking. Okay, the reason why she probably says that is because you have to pay for a
To get
specific one. Yeah.
Uniform.
Yeah, and I guess in private schools it is more expensive probably, but for public school you can pay for a polo anywhere. You can buy a polo anywhere. And you can buy khakis anywhere. So it depends. So for public school you don't have to exactly have the label, but I would see probably in private schools they would request a label probably. So I can understand where both people are coming from.
I don't really get her point though, because I understand that you're saying that poor people or poor parents weren't able to offer to get the uniform, but your uniform only bought how many times? Once, twice a year? And then you can wear it for how long? And a comparison for the regular clothing, you have to keep buying it.
So I think that what it is you have to buy a certain amount, and sometimes you have to buy a certain quality for certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
So some places where I went to elementary school, we wouldn't have to purchase one that had a label at all.
Mm-hmm.
So you could go anywhere and get like khakis and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in private places, they may require you to purchase a specific label, and then it ends up being like $50 to $75 for just a t-shirt, for just a shirt. And so it can add up because you don't want just one. You have to purchase 3-4 things.
Mm-hmm.
And what if the requirement is just not only shirts and skirts and shorts, but you also have to purchase a certain amount of socks? And then what if the area has different clothing per season that you are required to wear? Then you have to get uniforms not only for the winter, but you have to get it for the summer. So I think it would all depend.
Ah, okay.
Right? So public school would probably only require specific things. Like you just have to make sure you have a blue polo. You only have to make sure you have khakis. So overall, in my opinion, those things would be cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have to go to a private school that requires a certain labeling, then you have to pay more because it has to go through the school.
Mm-hmm.
And the schools, some schools have to make a profit, or they try to make a profit.
Mm-hmm,
so there's such thing as a charter school. So those areas may require you to wear,
Premium.
Premium, a specific brand, right? And you have to pay for those brands. So that might be pricier. But at the end of the day, I still feel overall this person is only thinking like you only have to wear a certain amount of clothing weekly.
Mm-hmm.
But really, when you're getting judged as a kid while you're wearing clothing, where it's freestyle,
Mm-hmm.
you have to purchase at least different types of clothing, for the next 2 weeks, for the next 3 weeks.
But actually, you should even mention that if it's freestyle, you can go to thrift store.
Yeah, but back then, at least in my 16, 17, thrift stores weren't a good thing, right? You got always the dingy clothes. Nowadays, I think it changes. A lot of people throw away their high-end clothing because there's fast fashion, right? Where you go through clothing really quickly. So I could see that. But from my understanding, unless you go to a rich neighborhood that has a thrift store, you're not going to find anything good if you go to an impoverished area to a thrift store. So I can see both scales.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense, what I said?
Yeah, I still feel like the lane of just like you mentioned, you get buy you're a freestyle, you get buy at least 2 weeks ahead, different clothing, right? And a majority of the time you wouldn't just only buy 2 weeks, and you have spring, summer, fall, winter, you want to match whatever it is.
So people would buy for every single season, where for a lot of places you wouldn't have to. So that's where I disagree with the second comment a lot more than I would say I disagree with the first comment. But I feel like it's to each their own. I mean, at the same time, kids want to feel individualistic, but they want to feel a part of a clique. So it's two completely different things that are clashing against each other, right? They want to have their own individuality, but they want to assimilate correctly. And so if you see these girls walking around, because I go to the mall nearby, and I see these teenagers, and I'm looking at them, and they're in a group of friends, and I'm thinking, why are they all wearing the same clothing? I've never been friends with people that wore all the same clothing as me. But
I guess they're really, really tight friends. They want to sew up their friendship. It's like they're really tight. I don't know.
I guess. I mean, I've never had that before. Ever.
Oh, okay.
I've never tried to dress the same as someone else. people that have known me for long periods of time know that I dress really strange, I guess. Like I would wear like dresses, like a short dress, and to this day I still do it with like a sweater on top, and then I would wear over the knee high socks.
I don't see that as weird though.
I guess like in Orange County though, it's quite strange.
Oh.
In that area, people mostly wear like shorts and like a tank top or something. You know, something very yeah, like
soy.
Yeah, and where I was always trying to cover my chest and arms. I don't like showing those things, but I was okay with showing my legs. So I guess I don't know. To each their own. But that was Orange County is very different than everywhere else, and that was just for a certain amount of time in college.
I can see that. Wow, I didn't know people actually have this type of idea about school. Like
it's very thought out.
Right.
It's a debate. Yeah, it's a sincere debate. Like I know in debate class they would debate freestyle versus uniform.
Really?
Yeah, but the talking points was always is the financial part for people who chose uniform, whereas freestyle would always argue individualism.
Interesting.
So those are two things that I would consider very separate, but also fairly cohesive in different ways. So I just always think that freestyle and what is it called?
Would make the life easier, at least for my understanding when I was growing up, is make my life hella easier. I don't want to think.
You mean uniform? Sorry, yeah. I said freestyle. No, but I agree with you. At one point, I had the option, or my mom had the job option to move technically to a job where they would pay for my private school and high school.
Oh, okay.
And it would require a uniform. And so my mom thought about it, and she thought I wouldn't like uniform, so she didn't take the job. I remember being like, why wouldn't you do that? That's such a financial increase. The area seems super cool. And uniform, what's wrong with the uniform? That sounds awesome. And she was like, oh, I just rejected it. Like, no discussion. They were even going to pay for my little brother's, what is it called? For my little brother, because I think I was 15, 16 at the time. So my mom was just about to have my brother. They were going to pay for her parental leave before I think she even started. And they were also going to offer her work from home, and they were going to pay for him to have for someone to take care of him.
Interesting.
It
is interesting. It never happened in my hometown.
It doesn't, that rarely happens here, that they offer that kind of financial
help.
Oh yeah, I guess my mom really impressed her during the interview.
Oh, okay.
And it was a woman that was hiring her. And she knew that my mom was mostly a single mom at that time. Possibly. From what I remember.
From my understanding, when I was in China or even in Macau, I didn't see that company were able to take care of your kids going to school. Stuff like that never happened. Even when you're pregnant, you're gonna be work until you get you go to labor.
Oh really?
Yeah,
that's
100%.
Interesting. So my question would be, would the grandparents be helping to take care of the kids, or
Maturity is that's a really common over there.
It's common for Hispanic families as well. Normally the grandparents, for instance, Coda has already talked to my mom about this. My husband has already talked to my mom. The fact that he talked to her before he spoke to me was fucking hilarious. That he wanted to move back. Because we lived with my mom for a week, and it was actually pretty good. Living with my mom isn't bad. She's someone that leaves you alone. Mm-hmm. But he was like, oh, when Lindsay and I have kids, I want to talk to Lindsay about moving back in with you, so you can help us raise our kid. And I was like, dude, why are you talking to my mom about this before even me?
It's I didn't know that.
Yeah, but I was like, I love where we live too much to move back there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he would. It's normal in both of our cultures for family to take care of the kid. It's perfectly normal, but you don't hear that from a lot of Caucasian families. It's weird. But here's the thing. This is what I question. If you don't trust the parent and you leave the kid with your kid with your parent, that sucks.
Yeah, no.
And even if you you have no other choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like it's horrible. You know what I mean? Like the mental anguish that probably has to go through.
Why though? If you don't think you were able to have anybody to help you, or you couldn't even handle a kid to come along, why you bring them to the world? Like that part, like you just bring your burden to put your burden on the kid.
I feel like so. Okay, so I come from a household that's, I wouldn't call it religious because my mom is very liberal in a lot of ways, but I know she believes that all, like every child made is like a special creature. Like she cries when she hears about a kid dying, even if she doesn't know them.
Oh, okay.
And like when there's like a funny drunk story about her. She's fucking hilarious. But yeah, my mom doesn't like abortions particularly. She understands where they're necessary in some instances, but she doesn't particularly care for the idea of it. She doesn't care for the idea of...
As long as it's not implement to her.
Yeah. As long, like, my mom is someone who wasn't prepared to have me, right? Because she was fairly young, but she still had me. And I remember during the argument, I said something argument with her, I said something pretty horrible, like, if you dislike me so much, right, then you should have never had me, right? Because I am pro, you know. And it was something pretty horrible to say to her. Like, I think that I did apologize later on because my mom was very upset that I had said that. Like, it was very hurtful to her because of her feelings towards that thought process, and because I know my mom does care for me, so she would like to think that I care for her, right? But to say that to her is just disregarding her and what she went through to have me, right? It was very disrespectful of me, and it's something that I feel horrible that I had said to her. So even through all that struggle, I would hope to think that every parent, even though this isn't the reality, every parent that chooses to have a child, that they try to do their best for that child, right? And while in that moment you can't take perfect care of your child, you know, later on through working hard, you can try better. So I feel mixed emotions towards it. While I would never personally choose to have an abortion, I don't like the idea of ever telling someone what they can and can't do with their body. Like, I would never tell you what to do, right? I don't know. It's just, it's difficult to even say, like, it sucks, right? Because some people can't even afford to have an abortion, and they don't necessarily want the child, and so they inflict that pain and suffering in some instances on that child because they never wanted them in the first place. And that feeling is very hurtful, right? Because when someone isn't prepared to give love to a child, you can only imagine how that child feels.
Yeah, that will be our next episode. The
Planned episode?
Yes, exactly. The Planned Parenthood. See how we slick into it?
But yeah, I guess that's the end of our episode. I know we went off on kind of a tangent at the end, but I mean, I think that every topic is an interesting topic to talk about. It doesn't necessarily have to be super serious all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And until next time.
Bye.